In assignment 4, we are going to look at a different way to do assignment 3. We're going to learn about the session variable in assignment 4. So I think all of you have probably heard of cookies, and you've gone to a site that asks you if it's okay to store a cookie on your machine. There's some notes here, more about session than they are cookies, but a cookie is a small file that can be stored on your machine that can store your login information and personalized information about you on your machine, so that the next time you go to visit a website, that website can go and access that cookie and pull up that information about you again and doesn't have to ask you again. A session is essentially a short-term cookie. So we are not actually placing a file on somebody's computer. What we are doing is gathering information from them, and we are storing them in a session, their continuous visit to the site. And once they have closed the browser, that session is gone. So that's the way to think of a session. So it's a series of variables, as many variables as you want to create. A lot of times we start off by getting the user's login and storing that in a session variable, and then we and then we build from that. So after they log in, we might get their first name and last name and keep that in the session for the duration of their visit for site personalization. We might just take information that they enter and store it into session for a series of a couple of pages, just so that we have it in order to access the database and put more information in the database. Or we might pull information from the database about them, store it into session so that we can use it on a later page. So one user's continuous visit to a site, once the browser is closed, the session is gone. And I say continuous, but it's really not. It's as long as the browser is open and active for a period of time. You could store some session variables, navigate away, visit another site, and then come back, and that session would still be there and active. So you should really consider a session as the duration that the browser is open. Once the browser is closed, that session is gone. It does eventually expire. That can be set on the server for the expiration time. So we've got in assignment 4, we're going to use assignment 3 and we're going to modify it. So instead of using local variables, where the variable is only in existence for that one page, and once you go to the next page it's gone, we're going to use session variables. So we store the value of the variable in on one page, and it's still there on the next page, and it's still there on the next page. So what we're going to do is start with go to your assignment 3 and grab index, get form data, and display form data. Copy them, copy. Do not cut, do not delete them. Leave assignment 3 there. So do not modify assignment 3. So select those out of assignment 3, copy them, make sure you're copying and not moving. Come to your assignment 4 folder and paste them into your assignment 4 folder. So I have already copied them from assignment 3, pasted them into assignment 4, and we're going to use those pages, and actually we're probably not going to use index, but we're going to use those pages to create the same activity that we did in assignment 3, but we're going to use session variables. So let's start by opening up, or let's put get form data into Dreamweaver. And this is the file we want to start with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in assignment 4, make sure you're in the correct folder. In assignment 4, I'm going to delete index.php. And then get form data I'm going to rename to index.php. I'm going to close this one because I just renamed it. And then I'm going to open it. So this is going to be the page that we first land on, and we're going to modify it. We're also going to create a new page, so we'll do File, New, Create. This is going to be entirely PHP. It's going to be a pass-through processing page for us. So I'm going to do a Control A and delete everything out of that. I'm going to do a File, Save As, and we're going to save that into our Assign04 folder as storeinfo.php, STOREINFO, capital I, .php. All of your files in this class should be named .php, whether they contain PHP or not. All of them end in the .php extension. Once you've decided to go with a particular web programming technology, that's what you stick with in a solution. You don't switch back and forth. So now we've got in our assignment 4, we've got index and store info, and we will eventually land on display info. And so I'm going to change this display form I'm going to change this display form data to be display info.php. And we'll wind up having a fourth page that we do as well. So in index, the first thing we want to do is just inside that PHP, just inside that PHP, we want to begin the session. So in order to use session variables, your first line of code, again, it's your first line of code, must be session start, open and close parentheses, semicolon. So session underscore start, open and close parentheses, semicolon. So that's your first line of code. This starts the session and allows you to use session variables. If you forget this one line of code, when you try to use session variables, it will not work. So let me say that again. If you forget this one line of code at the very top, sessions underscore start, in your page, your session variables will not work. So if you're finding that your session variables are not working, ask yourself if you remember to put session start at the top and go and check. So we are going to move some of this information that's at the top of this page into store info. And for right now, let's just copy this bit of information. So the $ name, the assignment there, the if-else statement, I'm going to cut. So do a Control X. I'm going to come over to store info. This is entirely PHP, so I'll have my PHP open and close delimiters. Again, the very first line on this page inside of the opening PHP is going to be session underscore start. Starts the session, allows you to use session variables. So make sure that you have that at the top. We're going to modify what we've just pasted in here. Before that, let's add one more line on this page. It's going to be header, and inside of that, we're going to have cache, C-A-C-H-E, dash, control, colon, space, no, dash, cache. So computers can cache information that's frequently used. And so if you find yourself at some point seeming like your data is not updating, it's possible that you have a caching problem. And so this line of code tells the browser not to cache that information and to retrieve that information again. So go and get it again. Don't use what you had last time. So now that we've got that, we are going to change this into a series of if statements. We are going to use session variables on this page. So we're going to have a series of if statements. And we're going to say if, basically if the posted name is not empty. So if not empty, $_post name. Okay, so if the posted name is not empty. If the posted name is not empty, then we are going to retrieve the posted name. But instead of storing it into $name, we're going to store it into $_ session name. So that's how that changes. Instead of just a $name, it becomes $_ session, square brackets, double quotes, name. So we still have this variable name here. We're just putting it inside of this. So now when you want to recall it, just like if you wanted to write it out to the browser before, you'd do $name. Well, now if you want to write it out to the browser, you do $_ session name. It works the same way. The difference is this one is only available on this page and this page alone, and once you navigate away from this page, it's gone. This one, once it's set with the value, is available on this page and every other page for as long as the user is there. So this one becomes more handy for us. Now we're going to do that for each one of these. So we're going to have several if not empty statements. And we're going to do it all the way down through comments. What I'm going to do is copy these two and paste them here. I'm going to change instead of name, it's going to be address, session address, _post address, like that. So be careful copying and pasting. Copying and pasting can be the enemy at times. So again, it's if not empty. Again, we're using the not operator here, which turns a yes to a no or a no to a yes, right? It inverts whatever the result is. So this is going to tell us if it's empty. If it's empty, it returns, I think it returns a number actually. And then this inverts it. So we want to know if it's not empty, then go ahead and store the session variable. So we're going to copy that. We're going to paste it again. This time we're using city in 3 places. This time state. This time zip. This time country. We'll do phone. Email. Comments. Again, double check your copying and pasting. Okay, it's your responsibility to make sure that you've changed them appropriately. So double check those, make sure they are correct. So then we're going to keep people from navigating directly to this page. So prevent people from navigating directly to this page. We're going to have an if statement that checks to see if any of those posted values are empty. So here we said if not empty, go ahead and grab the value. But that's not going to navigate us away from the page. If it's empty, it's just going to skip the if statement. So down here we're going to do an if statement, and it's going to be a large if statement. And we're going to check, inside of that I'm going to put nested quotes because we're going to do a series of logical ORs. We're going to say if empty, $_ post name. So we've got if empty, $_ post name, double pipe, which is a logical OR. And then I'm going to copy this grouping here, parenthesis to parenthesis. And then I'm going to paste it again, but I'm going to change name to address. So we're going to go through all of these, but we're going to put them all inside of this if statement. I'll put a logical OR there, and I'm going to move this down. So this matches up with the if statement here. And then I'm going to put my curly brackets below it. This is the body of the if statement. So what we've got here, we need to copy this line and we need to duplicate it. I'm going to paste it there, paste it there, paste it there, and then we need one more, so I'm going to paste it, but then we're going to get rid of everything including that. We don't want the last double pipe there. You'll see when I get next to this parenthesis, it matches up with that opening parenthesis. That's what you want. And now we've got to make sure that these match up. So name and address are right, and then we've got city, state, zip, country, phone, email, and comments. So if any of those are true, logical OR means if any one of these is true. So if any one of these is in fact empty, then do something here. So one of them was empty, so do this. We are going to set an error message. I'll do a $_session error message, setting it as a session value so that it is available to us on other pages when we navigate there, because this is just a processing page, so we have to navigate to another page. I'm going to put an asterisk, space, please fill out all of the required form elements. Then I'm going to navigate them away. So header, location, index.php. And then I'm going to put an exit to stop processing. So once they hit that header location, they should navigate away and shouldn't get to anything else on the page. So I'm going to put an exit there to make sure they don't get to anything else on the page. So now that we've done that, then we have our if statement here. So we are still checking to see if the posted S name is empty. Otherwise, do this. So it's still the same here. But what I'll say is at the bottom, let's come down here, we're going to have a redirect. So we'll do a header, location, display info. So that will land us on that page. And I'm going to put a comment down here, and you should put this comment too. If you are having trouble with values on this page, comment out the line below so that this page loads in your browser. If you leave this like it is right now, no matter what, it's going to pass through to the next page. So you may have an error on this page, and that error might show on the screen, but it's a pass-through page. So it has an error. It would show it on the screen, but it redirects to the next page, so you never see the error. So if you're having troubles, comment out this line. Put a double / in front of it, and that way when you navigate to it, it actually stops on this page, and you can make sure that you don't have any errors. So we've got to change this over to use session variables. We're still looking for the _post s name, that's fine. But all of these are becoming session variables. So we're doing, it's going to be $_session s name. So it becomes $_session s name. And then this one becomes $_session name. So essentially the same, except you've got to change them into $_sessions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this top one, and then I'm going to paste it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this is going to be S address, while this one is address. This one is going to be S city, while this one is city. This one's going to be S state, while this one is state. S zip, while this one is zip. And S country, while this one is country. I like to line up my equal signs. So that way I can see all my square brackets, all my double quotes. I can look up and down in addition to left and right. So we've done this first part here. Make sure that you've changed all of them correctly. There should be no capital S's here. There should be all capital S's here. Again, looking up and down because everything's lined up. And then down here, the right-hand side stays like this. So don't change that. The left-hand side has to become this. So it becomes this one right here. Goes there. This one goes there. Copy the city one, the left-hand side, to the left-hand side here. Copy the state. Zip. And country. Our equal signs are all lined up, so again, look for capital S's here. underscore session here, capital S is here, underscore post here, and that finishes out this processing page. So we've created this session error message that we'll be able to use on other pages. So remember that, because we're going to come back to that to be able to use it again. So I'm going to go ahead and save this one. But now that we've created these session variables, we can go back to index and modify index to use these session variables. I didn't want to start on index because we would not have logically created those yet. And so now we can go to index and we can talk about that page. So we are going to come back up to the top here, and let's just get rid of everything except that session start there. So we've got that session start, and then we are going to, let's change assignment 3 to assignment 4. This is the index page. So in modifying these down below, we're going to make them all look like this. So we'll do label and then input, but then after the max length, we'll move that down, and then we're going to modify this right here. So naturally, you would think that this would just become echo session. So we'll go ahead and change that, but it becomes more than that. So we've got echo $_session name with the semicolon, but the thing is it has to be more than that because we're using this page in multiple ways now. So we need an if statement, and we're going to check and make sure that session name is not empty. So we're going to do an if statement, and say if not empty, $_session name, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. So we've got if not empty session $_session name, then echo out $_session name. So now that you've seen it like this, I'm going to reduce it to just one line. So I'm going to put that curly bracket at the end. I'm going to put that there. I'll move that there. So it winds up being on one line like this. So we've got value equals open PHP to close PHP, and then here's our closing input right here. If not empty session name, echo out session name. And that's what all of these are going to become. So we're going to change it to look like that. So again, we're going to have li, next line the label, after, or right before the value equals, we'll move that down, and then we're going to move the closing li down. This here is going to again become this if statement, so I'm going to copy everything that's inside that opening and closing PHP delimiter, and I'm going to replace this, but then this becomes address, and this becomes address. So we're going to continue down here, and make the rest of these look like this. So I'm just going to work on this until we get all the way to the end. Then we'll copy that whole piece. Remember, this one is city. This one is state. This one is country. Make sure you spell everything correctly, and case sensitivity matters. Phone. Email. Now this one is different. Remember, this one's a text area. So we've got open text area, closed text area, so I'm going to go ahead and I don't want a space there, I don't want a space there, because if you put a space there, then that space is always there because it's in between the open and closed text area. So I want it to be open PHP, and I'm just going to move this if statement down below, and then it's closed PHP, closed text area, so no spaces in there. If you were to move this down, then that carriage return would automatically be in the text area, and we do not want that. Before I go down any farther, let's come up here to the action. And this is going to point to storeinfo.php, so make sure you change your action to storeinfo.php. We'll scroll down here to the shipping information, and it's more of the same. So again, we're going to be doing the same thing, except we've got the capital S's down here. So again, we are checking to see if the session, whatever the variable is not empty, echo out that session variable. So again, same thing. Again, I'm going to make sure I've got this copied. Oops. My computer paused there for a minute. That's not good. So I'm going to copy this entire piece right here. This is going to be capital S name and capital S name. So again, we see sname, sname, sname. If the session variable is not empty, go ahead and write it out. If it is empty, don't do anything. So for all of these, if they're empty, nothing's going to happen. It's just going to it'll load the page, but that's it. This is saddress. This one is scity, capital S. Keep moving on down. State. Szip, capital S, zip. And country. So now we've gone through all of these. Please double check, make sure you haven't misspelled anything, make sure they line up with the correct one. Again, it's if the session variable is not empty, echo out the session variable. If it is empty, then you've just got a value equals double quote, double quote. After the closing form here and before the JavaScript, we're going to put another div, ID of error MSG. So error MSG, open and close div. Inside of that div, we're going to do an opening PHP and a closing PHP. And we're going to have the same thing, this if statement. If not empty, write it out. So we're doing it for the error message this time. So we're going to do a copy, and down here we're going to do a paste, and here we're doing error message. And again, error message, just like that. So again, just to read through this again, we've got a div with an ID of error message. Inside of that, we've got an open and close PHP. We've got an if not empty session error message, echo out session error message. Now let's do some formatting for this one. We're going to come up to the styles. And right here, we're going to do a div with an ID of ERROR capital MSG. You'll see it's suggesting it there for me. Open and close curly bracket. I'm going to do color of red. Font weight of bold. Font size. 12 point. Position, absolute. Top of 420. Left of 480. So that's just going to position it on the screen, a little lower on the screen below the other items, in a spot that we know is open and clear so that we can see it. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Again, this is our index.php. I know this is a lot without testing. We are just, again, rearranging things, right? So we had done this with our local variables. And now we're changing it all to session variables, and it's going to operate just a little bit differently, but the end functionality is pretty much the same. From here, we're going to open up display info. Make sure this is from your assignment 4 folder. And we're going to modify this page just like we've modified the other pages. So in here, we're not looking for $_post name. We're looking for $_session. Come on. There we go. Finally. So if session name is empty, then send us back to index, and I'll put an exit statement there to stop processing. If we get this far, we'll do session or $_session error message is equal to the empty string. So we'll clear the error message at this point. And then below, we're going to change this to assignment 4 and assignment 4, and this is display info. Now down here, we're once again changing these from $_post to $_session. So on this page, we're going to assume that the session variables are populated, because if this one were empty, we'd redirect. So if we get to this page, we're going to assume that we have all of them. So we're going to change this to _session, like that. And I'm going to copy, paste. Be careful with your copying and pasting. Sometimes it selects the $, sometimes it doesn't. So there I've got my $_sessions. Again, down here, same thing. And then we've got a couple more, state and zip, as we move across. Comments here. So make sure you've gotten all of those $_posts and change them to $_session. We've got name, address, and so on here. City, state, and zip on one line. Down here we've got capital S, capital S, capital S, capital S. Outside of this form field, we're going to do an opening div, ID equals nav, open and close div, and then we're going to have two spans inside of there. So I'm going to do span ID equals nav1, span ID equals nav2, close span, forgot my greater than sign there. There, that finishes it out. So now, in the first one there, I'm going to put the words continue updating. And then in this one, I'm going to put an anchor tag. So href equals finished update.php, closing anchor tag, and I'll put the words finished updating. So I'm going to have these two links on this page. It'll either take me back to index. I forgot my anchor tag here. Let's do an A. href equals index.php. On the other side of continue updating, your closing anchor tag. Sometimes I wish Dreamweaver would stop helping me. So again, I've got open and close span, open and close anchor tag, continue updating, open and close span, open and close anchor tag, finished updating. So for that, let's come up here into the styles, and we're going to do div with an ID of nav. We'll set the width to 400 pixels, position absolute, top 330 pixels, left of 200 pixels. We'll do div with an ID, div that has a span with an ID of nav1. Again, you could just do pound nav1 here. There's different ways to do everything. I'm going to float left, div that has a span with an ID of nav2. I'm going to float that to the right. So we've positioned the outside div with a width of 400, and then we've floated left the first nav and floated right the second nav so that they'll be spaced apart like that. So we've got our display info page done here. Should be done. I'll go ahead and save that. So from this page, we're going to do one last page, a fourth one, that we're going to call finishedupdate.php. So we'll do a file, new, php, create. First line is going to be open PHP, close PHP, session_start. Which reminds me, and hopefully you caught this, we forgot one thing on display info at the very top, first line. Session_start. Again, that's our first line right inside the opening PHP. We'll save that. Come to this page. Again, we're going to have that same check that's at the top of display info. So I'm going to copy these lines right here. So again, on this page, we're going to check and see if session name is empty. If it is, redirect us to index. If it's not empty, we will reset the error message. We'll clear it out. Sorry, I was looking at display info. On this page, we are clearing out session variables. So each one of our session variables like this. So for each one of them, we are going to clear them out like this. So we're going to duplicate this. I'm going to go ahead and do error message is equal to the empty string. And then I'm going to line up my equal sign here. And it's going to vary. I'm going to have to change that equal sign no matter what. But we've got address, city, state, zip, country, phone, email, comments. So again, I'm going to line up my equal sign so I can see I've got my semicolons, everything set. Now we've got to do the capital S's. So S, name, address, city, state, zip, country. And line things up again. So now I've got capital S's, S name, address, city, state, zip, and country. There's my error message. So we've cleared all of those out. I'm going to do two other lines down here. Session underscore unset. And then session destroy. That will get rid of the session that we've been using. So this frees all session variables. This one destroys all data associated with current session. So on this page, we're making sure that we get rid of all that data we stored. We don't want it floating around. We are clearing out the variables manually, and then we are destroying the session to make sure that it is done and gone. Title we're going to change to Assign04 finished update page. And then inside the body, we'll just have a little, we'll just have a little H1, open and close H1. We'll set the style. You can probably grab this from your other page, but font size, 14 point, text indent, 360 pixels. And we'll put Assign04 finished update page. And then we'll put just a paragraph that says your information has been successfully updated in our database. We're not using a database, but that's what we'll put for this. We'll go ahead and save this page. Make sure you save it to your assignment 4 folder. Again, this is finished update.php. And now it's time to try what we have done. So I'm going to refresh this. This is from when I copied my assignment 3. So it says assignment 4 index page. So one, when the page loads, your JavaScript should be working. So your insertion point should automatically be flashing there in that first one. And then on this one, we'll just put some information in. So now, when I hit proceed, it should go to store info. And if I leave this blank, it should copy it over for me. From store info, it should pass on to display info. So we're not coming back to this page this time. So proceed. We go to display info. We have successfully copied the information from name to capital S name. Copied it over. I want to continue updating. Now this is a main factor in auto population. When you click this button and you come back to this page, all of those session variables now contain data. And on that index page, for the value of all those, we said if it's not empty, write it out, right? So if it's not empty, write it out. So we come back to this index page. This index page is multi-purpose now. So when we first come here, they're all empty. And then we can come back and make changes. I'll change this to West Lafayette. I'll change this to Indy. Proceed. Over here we've got West Lafayette and we've got Indy. I hit continue update. It's still there. I'll change that. Change this. Proceed. So again, it changed. Finished update. We land on this page. If I go back to the index page, because we landed on that finished update page and it cleared out all of the session variables, everything is empty once again. So we landed on that finished update page. Remember, the finished update page got rid of everything. So that when we come back here, it's all empty. It's like we're starting over again. If I do not fill it out, I get my error message here. If I fill out some of it, I get my error message. And it's not until I fill it out completely, I come back, it's filled out, I go to finished update, it erases everything. I come back and we're ready to try it again. So that gets us through assignment 4 and what's expected of you. Again, when you're done, submit the URL for the assignment. Make sure that it points to the correct assignment when you submit it. Test it after you submit the URL. Make sure that your URL you're submitting to me actually works. So that gets us through assignment 4. I hope you've learned a decent amount during this exercise.